Hello everyone, welcome to ETManufacturing show. So today I have with me Mr. Sridhar Neelakantan, who is the Managing Director and CEO of Titan Engineering and Automation, that's TEAL, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Titan Company Limited. So basically born as an in-house engineering team, the company now boasts of full-fledged machine building, automation, and the components manufacturing businesses, and they're catering to the global markets. So, Mr. Sridhar, welcome to the show, and I'm quite excited to interact with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Same here. So, Mr. Sridhar, I would like to start with a very important and relevant question, which is there in everybody's mind today. So, how do you see India's role evolving, basically in the global manufacturing value chain, especially with the recent tariff announcements by the US President Donald Trump?
Yeah, of course, the tariff announcements are very recent, but
Mhm.
I think we'll have to look at the India story from a long-term perspective.
Yes.
So, and the India story that way is very strong. And from a purely from, let's say, a China one policy, we are so ideally placed in terms of all matrices that you would really look at to be I would say, a good alternative to China. There is this India is probably best suited from all perspectives, and I think most companies are looking at India strategically from that point of view, and that is also true for our customer base, where they are also looking at India more strategically. So if you have to look at the tariffs in specific, I think the tariffs have been, India is not in isolation. Every country has been, slapped with a tariff, and we could say that relatively we are better off. So from that point of view, I think the messaging is clear in terms of the thinking, I think, between the countries also. And I think the Indian response also has been quite, I would say, mature from that point of view. So we will see how this pans out, but we are at least I'm quite optimistic that this will span out well for us as a country.
But as you say, like India has been in the global radar of many MNCs also. Many companies are looking at India to start their business activities or manufacturing activities or somehow to associate with India. So how do you see in terms of our readiness uh, to acclimate with the global manufacturing landscape and also to get absorbed in the global manufacturing environment? How is the scenario currently? Is the India ready for that?
So I think as far as if you just look at manufacturing as such, I think every industry is in a very different phase in terms of readiness. For your specific question, you look at the automotive industry, pretty much entrenched. I think everything you can buy in India today. So the whole supply chain has been set up in India. But if you look at emerging markets or emerging industries which are moving in a way to India, a good example would be electronics. We made some progress, but we have made progress, it may be at the far end of it, not at the back end supply chains of it. Assembly per se has moved to India, but the rest of enablement of that assembly in terms of components that go in, the technologies that come in with those components, the supply chain of it is still not there. So that will take some time, but that movement and direction very much is there. And for any industry to be enabled, you need very good support through equipment, and technologies. This is another area where, of course, there are a lot of good companies like ours, which are willing to take up the challenge and come up with it. But yes, there is another area of enablement today. A lot of industries in India in manufacturing, a lot of that equipment still comes from China. A good example is, let's say, solar panels, for example. This is another industry moving to India, but all the equipment today comes from China. Or you can look at EV and batteries, for example. This is another industry that is coming up in India. Many companies are setting up greenfield battery making ventures. Equipment most likely will come from there. So there is some distance for us to go as far as manufacturing is concerned, but investments are happening, and as more investments happen, supply chains will start being developed. A lot of companies will start looking at this opportunity. Just like us, we are looking at this as a great opportunity for us to start being present there to enable the manufacturing industry.
Right. So, considering the developments which have happened in India from every aspect, like be it the technology adaptation or the workforce or the supply chain, but there's still some challenges in terms of scaling up the manufacturing activities. So these challenges may be due to the regulatory framework or due to skill availability or the supply chain disruptions, which is happening all over the world, or many other things which probably some things are already under control of the industry, but some things are under the control of the government. So would you like to highlight those challenges with which are becoming like hindrance to scaling up?
I wouldn't say that the regulatory framework is any constraint to that extent. I think it has only been enabling. So I think the government has done its bit in terms of providing incentives to encourage more manufacturing investments. It is now for the industry to pick up and entrepreneurs to pick up some of these areas. And naturally, there are some areas in which capabilities and competencies have to be sort of built. And this can be built through partnerships, you can get through joint ventures, etc. Maybe one area is when if India does have a thawing of relationship with China, a lot of joint ventures can be enabled that will help us, sort of scale this up a lot more faster. But even if that does not happen, I think it'll take a little longer, but the Indian industry should live up to it. So as far as regulatory frameworks is concerned, I am not too concerned. I think the government has done enough. Maybe some more can be done in terms of opening up our relationships with some of these countries, especially with China, where it can enable. The other aspect of scaling up is in new industries, it is about skills. This is one area in which this is a challenge, no doubt. We have a lot of good number of talent in the country, but the talent is not ready in that sense for um, manufacturing and ready for it in terms of the skills that are needed, ready skills that are needed for our industry today. We have a lot of education institutes, lots of engineering colleges, but somehow it is very theoretical in my view. As a company, we spend a lot on training engineers to be more employable for us in automation. So they may be mechanical engineers, they may be electrical engineers, electronics engineers, but their application side of knowledge needs a lot more improvement. Their knowledge is very theoretical. This is one area I think the country really needs to speed up. And it is our responsibility as industry, it is the responsibility of academics and academia, and also the governments to make all three come together. And skilling institutes. There are some very good skilling institutes like Tata Institute of Skilling. Come together to see how we can make our education programs a lot more relevant to the skills needed for manufacturing. This is one area that really needs some attention.
So, how can manufacturers ensure smooth integration of, say, for example, new automation or new digitalization technologies with their existing systems and processes? So, what steps need to be taken to minimize the disruption and maximize the return on investment?
Well, the return of investment has always been a question, right? When you have cheaper labor, then investing in high capital intensive automation is always a question. So, but interestingly, there are areas in which automation lends itself quite well, especially if you want um, repeatable quality. There are certain areas in which um, causes a lot more, I would say, strain and stress for humans. Such areas they lend themselves for automation. And in the country itself, um, The automotive industry is one industry we've been working with for many years now. I can see the evolution of it. Earlier we would have more manual stations, semi-automatic lines, but increasingly today we are seeing a lot more greater degree of automation coming in. And this is coming in post-COVID. People have seen a lot more reasons for how they can take some tasks out, which are earlier used to be done by humans and best done by machines. And that has really improved productivity as well as reliability of the products that are being built. So it goes quite hand in hand. So companies have become quite adept in it. Almost most companies are looking at some kind of automation, um, and they're looking at how they can dovetail it with your existing manufacturing. So typically, if you are looking at scaling up capacities, then in your existing lines, can we look at some portions that can help through automation, you know, or create a completely greenfield line, which is replaces the old, but makes it a whole lot more productive, better for people, better ergonomics for people to work in, and increases production efficiency. And we help many of the companies in this space.
Yeah. So talking about the TEAL's journey so far, I'm very curious to know, so what led to TEAL's shift from this watchmaking to high precision manufacturing for the industry sectors, say, for example, mainly into automotive, aerospace, and defense.
Yeah, as I said, TEAL is a well-kept secret of Titan. You
Hmm.
know, the story is interesting. Actually, today Atmanirbhar Bharat became a very popular statement now, but we did Atmanirbhar Bharat way back in 90s. The early when 1990s is all history today, when we had to open up and we were forced to open up as a country. Foreign exchange was very difficult for us to get, and Titan was quite successful, and we were scaling up, and we needed to increase and enhance production capacities. But to get foreign exchange, because all equipment in watchmaking was imported, they came from Japan, came from Switzerland, France, Germany, etc. We needed foreign exchange, and when that was in short, we had to forced to look at how we can look at many of these precision equipment to be built in-house. So we actually started with a small team of fresh graduate engineers to build machines for us for captive need. That's the genesis of the starting of our automation business. Building equipment for our own watchmaking needs. And later on, when we started, maybe early and late 1990s and early 2000s, we also looked at watchmaking being high precision manufacture. Can we look at high precision manufacturing capabilities also be offered to other industries so that we can leverage more out of the capabilities and capacities we have? The first thing that came to us was space, because we used to work in very close tolerances. 1 micron, 3 micron is what we know really well. We have a pedigree of high precision. So we looked at space, we built space walls for ISRO, and then we started exploring aerospace, and then rest is history. Today, we work with very marquee names all over the world, you know. So that's been our journey. And over the years, today, any car you see on an Indian road has some system in that car built on a TEAL automation solution. Or if you have to flying on an A320 Indigo, you probably are, when it plane breaks, it's probably a TEAL, TRAS component that is breaking the aircraft. So to that extent, we have penetration. Yeah.
Right. So that's an interesting journey, like starting as an internal supplier to Titan, and then getting out of that and making its own presence for the global market in different industry sectors, not just the watch industry, right? Okay, so going ahead, can you please help us understand the significance of this long-term agreement with Liber Aerospace, and what does this mean to TEAL and overall India's aerospace industry or aerospace exports, you can say?
Yeah, actually, we signed up two, which is Safran as well as as well as Liebherr.
Yeah, to know more about Saffron also.
Yeah. So Liebherr, we've been working with Liebherr for some time, but now we are enhancing our relationship with them. And we make some precision components that go into their landing gears, which finally goes into some of these leading platforms of the world. And we have signed up with them for a 5-year contract of supplying these critical components to them. So yes, it gives us entry into landing gears. It gives us entry into some of the critical parts of Liebherr, so that we could then expand our relationship with that company too. For Safran, this is the first time we are entering into Safran aero engines. We have a very good relationship with the rest of the parts of Safran, but this gives us a very significant entry into the LEAP engine. And what we're going to be making here is very critical components that goes into the turbine side. As you know, in an engine, the turbine is a very hot section of the engine, which needs very critical capabilities. So what we will be making those components are for the LEAP engine on the turbine side. So that gives us entry into a very core area. Turbine is a very core area of an engine. And that gives us a great stepping into this particular domain of engines that we can expand. Yeah.
Would you like to elaborate further on how did TEAL build these capabilities to meet such high spec requirements, especially for the aerospace sector and also the turbine parts?
Yeah, we've been in the aerospace sector for more than a decade now. And our journey in aerospace started with, like I said, making very precise small components starting from space and then moving into aerospace and civilian aerospace. And my customers kept challenging us with more complicated parts. So earlier we used to do stuff which were closer to watches, very small, very precise. Today we do parts which are more than a meter, close to 1 meter. Earlier parts were really small. And now we do parts which are really big. So that journey has been where challenging yourself, working with the customers, some of the customers being very, one of those, you need good customers who also challenge you and work together in partnerships where you scale up. They challenge you and you live up to that challenge, and then you start building these capabilities. So that's the core strength that we have, is that we enter into areas that are always challenging, something next, and do a pretty good job of meeting those standards, aerospace standards. And there are lots of technologies in aerospace. So every year we have been adding up some capability or the other. And in the process today, we are one of the most, I would say, strategic suppliers to Raytheon Technologies. And that's where we started our relationship. And today we've reached a stage in Raytheon where we are a platinum supplier. Raytheon rates its suppliers as a platinum supplier when you have um, world-class matrices, which means on your on-time delivery, your quality performance, how lean your shop is, etc. And they rate suppliers, and we are the only supplier in Asia to be rated platinum. Only supplier, of course, in India, and maybe amongst 40,000 suppliers in their supply base, we are maybe amongst the top 8 who are a platinum supplier. So we've learned to be a very good supplier through our customers and challenging ourselves, and customers challenging us, and building capability every year and focusing on those areas where it makes sense for us. So engines has always been our focus. Engine accessories, power control units. These are the areas of an aircraft that we felt we could be differentiated, and hence we focused on those.
Yes, yes, yes. It's good to know that the way you said that when customers challenge us, then you challenge yourself, and then that leads to your journey into a very successful journey into the new segment. That's great. So you have some presence in the defense manufacturing as well, right? So what is the roadmap for expanding TEAL's defense manufacturing footprint, considering there are lots of things happening from the government side also in the defense segment? Lots of announcements recently made by the government.
So we have decided to keep ourselves even in the defense side on the aerospace segment. So all our relationship in the aerospace segment has been with HAL, and we are trying to build as close a relationship with them on all the new platforms that come in, existing platforms, getting deeper relationships on existing platforms. And that's what I think we will look at doing. So far, what we've done is really looked at all the most complex things that happen in HAL. They come to us, but they're all on the component side. So now we're trying to look with HAL how we can do systems. So they focus on building the engine, but can we build subsystems for them, modules for them? Can we incorporate some design, and try and work with them a little more strategically is the direction in which we think we will go. And that's our defense portfolio. We also work with international companies like Thales on the defense side, which is coming from the fact that Thales has a lot of content here and they have offset obligations. So from that point of view, we'll also deepen our relationship with companies like Thales.
So I'd like to know also more about the TEAL's role in the semiconductor supply chain. So what specific capabilities are being developed for especially this water fab equipment manufacturing?
Yeah. So to be clear, what we work on is called the wafer fab equipment space in semiconductor. So for your audience to understand semiconductor supply chain, semiconductor is a final chip that you buy that is in your electronic devices. So those chips actually are made out of silicon wafers. And you have a lot of processes that either you're depositing something or removing something to make these chips. The equipment that is used to make these chips is called a wafer fab equipment. And these wafer fab equipment have work under extremely low vacuum or rather high vacuum and very, very critical equipment. The requirements in these equipment is very similar to an aerospace requirement. So that's why there is that tangency in terms of capability. And when COVID hit us and travel really dropped, we really looked at what would be that industry that sort of leverages our competence, but also can balance this out. And that's how we looked at this particular space. And we were fortunate that we are probably the first company in India to enter this supply chain and for this supply chain to be brought into this country. Future, it will expand. Now I can clearly see since COVID, there are lot more in this space being done. But that's what we are looking at. We are working with one large player in this, and we will grow our relationship with them quite significantly in this space.
So what prompted your decision to set up a new plant in Chennai? Because you already have a plant in Hosur. So how will this expansion complement the existing Hosur operations? And do you have any plans for export-focused manufacturing from these new facilities?
Our move to Chennai to a large extent is from looking at the electronics industry because there are a lot of companies there, especially as we start focusing on equipment and equipment for the electronic industry, which we have significantly enhancing. A presence in Chennai was, I think, essential for us. And it is from that point of view that we are looking at Chennai.
Can you tell us more about TEAL's investment in R&D and advanced tooling facilities? Are any proprietary technologies being developed there?
Okay, in automation to a large extent, there is nothing proprietary as such, but there is a lot of R&D making automation work. Of course, we use a lot of robotics. We use a lot of vision systems, many technologies that go in to make robotics or make an automation equipment. A lot of R&D is required to make things work. How do you put and system integrate them together? So almost making automation itself, and for various industries that we work, is a certain degree of R&D that we do. But we are also looking at R&D from a software point of view. So if you look at IoT enabling machines, having our own platform to IoT enable, or looking at a very new way of doing automation. For example, we are looking at a very new concept where the focus on what we have is assembly automation. Today, we make very bespoke machines, which is specific only for our customers. Now we're looking at it, how can I make a platform out of this, which will be like Lego block, You can put, machines are standard, you just have to program them for that specific task, and you can put many of these machines together and you can build a product. Now, we've already done and implemented some of these strategies for some of our customers, and we are shipping them to various parts of the world. And this is one area in which we are looking at, partnering with customers, taking our solutions to the customers to see how this can work. We are also looking at software platforms, which can sort of make these machines a lot more intelligent, more standardized, becomes easy to sort of operate, and gives us far greater control. So looking at that area, yeah, so these are some of the areas that we are really looking at doing R&D on and building our own products and platforms.
So I'll come to the last question now. What is your vision for TEAL in
one
the
more
next 5
aspect.
years?
Sorry, I forgot to mention. There's one more aspect, which is a use of AI and ML. And that is one area that we are significantly looking at, is that especially in areas like vision systems, where you're looking at how I can use a camera to look at inspection, are extremely good areas in which you can use machine learning. And we have created some ML platforms, our own algorithms, to help customers get better with using cameras for inspection. So this is another area that we are actually putting some of our effort.
So these are your own developed system for AI and ML, right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, that's great. So what is your vision for TEAL in the next 5 years towards becoming a global tier 1 supplier across all the 3 domains which you mentioned: defense, automotive, and the semiconductors? Sorry, defense, automation, and semiconductor.
So we look at, so if I look at all the segments, I think all the segments where we are in for a real good future. The equipment side, I think we are in that cusp where India is really going to take off. So it is a capability that enables manufacturing. And we are really focused on all the emerging areas that are going to come up and where big investments are likely to happen in the country. And if this is a great opportunity for us. So you look at electrification, which is EVs. So we are working already with a lot of OEMs today in battery pack, in electrification of the car, which is motor, stator, rotor. There's lots of electronic boxes that are coming in, and this will scale. So we have already built a lot of capability, and this area is going to grow. We are building a lot of solutions, and some of this that we already spoke about, platforms, etc., unique solutions for this segment. The second segment I see is electronics. There's a lot of investment which is going to scale up, and we now have significant amount of expertise coming up in this space. And when this grows, we are naturally, best placed to cater to this segment. The third area that we are looking is solar. Now, the entire value chain of solar is going to come to India, and we are trying to build partnerships, capability to cater to this segment. And soon we should be coming up with solutions for that. There's going to be a lot of equipment that would be needed. India is going to go from 200 gigawatts today to almost 500 gigawatts by 2030. All the solar panels over here, if for that kind of scale, you may have to import, but there are companies now already investing in making panels here. So we want to cater to that market. If you don't, then all the machines are going to come from China. The other area is batteries in itself, and batteries that will be needed for storage. So batteries, you need to make them into packs, or the battery making in itself has equipment. These are very specialized equipment. And again, this would also be imported if you don't cater to this segment. So this is another area that we're looking at. So that's how I'm looking at the automation side. And in automation, we're also looking at geographies. Let's say if America is now going to be looking at bringing manufacturing back, it's going to come not like the way manufacturing is everywhere else in the world. It's going to come with a lot of automation. So there'll be a lot of automation requirements there. And so we are looking at North American market and see how we can be successful there and try and take our capabilities there. We are already there in Europe. We want to expand our footprint in Europe and maybe go a little east, which is Vietnam and Indonesia. These are another markets that we would like to look at for expanding our capability to be a truly global automation player. On the manufacturing side, aerospace, we have signed up a lot. We already have a content to grow significantly in the next 5 years, and we will be focused on that, on our customers. It's capital intensive. We will make our investments on these programs that we are already won and make a success of them, and then start building on capacities to ramp up and scale up. And plus, there are lots of opportunities coming our way. Almost every year, every quarter, we see a lot more opportunities from all our customers. So that's the one area I think India in itself will scale, and we have unique opportunity. On the semiconductor side, it has gone through a kind of trough because it slowed down for some time now, but we see now it will go to pick up. It will pick up again, especially with AI and lots of AI coming up and a better usage of AI. Then you'll need a lot of chips, and this will drive demand. And we are expecting that to scale up too. And so we will see, we're very positive that the semiconductor too in the next 4-5 years, that also scale up. So we are seeing a significant amount of opportunity in the next 5 years as I just scale of all our business, and we focus on these.
So thanks a lot for sharing your insights on various facets of Indian manufacturing as well as the TEAL's interesting journey from in-house precision manufacturing unit to independent profit center catering to the global markets. So as you rightly said, considering or looking at the developments in the Indian manufacturing industry in the last few years, India is more or less or almost ready to make its presence in the global market. So I look forward to talking to you again, and it was a pleasure having you in our session. Thank you.